FC Naples 1, Spokane Velocity 2. FC Naples drops the first game of their West Coast swing and third game across all competitions in a row. An unfortunate result. We did finally get a goal from Luca Mastrantonio. He gets us on the score sheet, but unfortunately it was one goal short. Paul, what did you make of this first game out west?
Yeah, I think it was a tough matchup from the go. You gotta make the trip all the way out to Washington. You've got a team shakeup with kind of a critical piece from year one to year two. A guy that's been here since day one. Deciding to leave the team mid season, that can cause some issues. And this game was a tall task. Just looking at the form, we were hoping FC Naples would put out a good performance, um, and maybe scrap together a point, and that didn't happen. But some optimism with that Master Antonio goal to close us out.
Yeah, we have to, before we kind of dive fully into this one, have to shout out Max Glasser, who's decided to retire from professional football. Wishing him all the best in his next chapter of life now, post-professional football. He was a key, like you said, key part of the team last year at that fullback position and key part of it this year. Glad to see him get his first professional goal against Portland a couple weeks ago. That was pretty cool to see, but wishing him all the best on his next chapter here. But with that being said, we did see, and we had wondered previously too on our preview show, would we see a change in the formation? Because we saw some fighting against Knoxville, but it looked like Knoxville was the better side, I think. And would we see a response from this team and some shakeups? And I think we saw just that. And the Glasser retirement announcement kind of had forced Matt Poland's hand to do something different. And we did see that it looked like it was a 5-2-3 in defense or a 5-4-1 almost, kind of in defense. And then getting forward, we saw Cisneros and Taylor Gray as the right back. Both of those guys as some wing backs getting way high up the pitch. It seemed to work, but then we gave up a goal 8 minutes in. Were you ready to scrap it at that 8-minute mark, or did you want to keep trying that formation?
Yeah, I think that the Torres touch, it wasn't a good touch. Losing the ball, and we were kind of in a scramble mode there. Delgado had a chance to maybe save it based on the shot shape. I'd be curious to see. I think he wants that one back. I think he could have done a little better to deflect it, but like a lot of these goals that Delgado lets in, the team really lets him down. It's transition one on one with him. Um, and you ask him to save the day, and we need to stop doing that. As for the formation, I kind of like Taylor Gray and Cisneros as wingbacks if we can shore up Torres, kind of cornerstone in that central back line. Um, but I think we're at a point where we're just not playing well. And giving the guys the dynamic flexibility to play freely, hasn't seemed to work. And I think going to a little bit more of a rigid shape, just until we can get that mojo back, let Coach Poland dictate a little bit more, might be in our best interest.
Yeah, I like the formation. I think you're right. 8 minutes in, we've got Torres back there who's been so good for us all season. It's a heavy touch, and I think Spokane had kind of adjusted to it as well. They were sitting way back, all but two players, and those two players knew, okay, we're gonna put these center backs under pressure because we know if we can get them to turn over the ball, we could potentially have a 1v1 versus the keeper. Which is exactly what happened. They put us under pressure, a poor touch, they pounced on it, and we were kind of left open, which is the risk you take with this formation, I think. You're losing essentially two defenders because you're letting them get forward, and both of them looked really good getting forward. I thought both Gray and Cisneros, Gray slotted right back into the team, happy to see him back. He fit right back in. Cisneros has kind of done it all year. He's been able to get forward and find guys play good passes. So to see them continue to be able to do that and kind of play more freely was a nice change. But that defensive, leaving it that open at the back is really what is kind of scary. And Spokane, credit where it's due, they executed on that chance early on and were able to then sit back even more and really try and limit our chances. I thought Spokane did a great job defensively all game, and you see why they're currently the second best team in the league. That's a really strong team, and like you said, kind of in the open, we knew coming in this was going to be a tall task, and we were going to have to play almost a perfect game in order to come away with 3 points or even a point on the road. I think we both would have been thrilled with. And yeah, when they scored early, then you could tell they really sat back, and then they come out, started the second half, get the penalty, about 10 minutes into the second half, and then it was kind of smooth sailing from there. But the thing that reassured me was we showed a lot of fight, and we had a lot of chances too. Especially kind of early on, we were betting into this formation. I think it's hard too when you have a new formation. That first game is always going to be so difficult because you can work it all you want in training, but training and game is completely different, right? So we knew it was kind of going to be slow. So I'm curious to see if we stick with this for Boise or if this is just, a one-time thing or maybe a one-off that we keep in the back pocket and can use going forward. But I kind of want to see this against Boise now.
Mm-hmm. And I'm going to throw this out here. What do you think about a false 10 with Kevin O'Connor? We hear about the false 9. Think about a false 10 with O'Connor, allowing Cisneros and Gray to play up and having O'Connor really settle back a little bit more because he's so good from range. We don't need him upfield as much and basically tell him, hey, you're gonna decoy going up and your responsibility is to cover for whichever one of those two guys is in the play up top and can't get back. You're going to be our safety valve there. Is this a crazy concept, or did I just come up with something genius? What's your thoughts?
I think I'd have to see it in action. I think O'Connor's so good, kind of like that 30, like you said, that 30 yards out, and then also in and around the D, right outside the box, finding people, playing passes in, or being open to take a pass and shoot. We saw he had a few chances pretty early on too, where the shot just went high and wide. But we're getting shots. It's just we need to get the shots on target, I think, and find something. I think once we're able to find, we need one of these guys to find a goal, and then I'm hoping the same thing happened with that I thought would happen with Farine early on in the year, where it's just going to boost the confidence, and then everything is going to start falling. Because Farine, Migletti, and Garcia, I thought all played well. But we need more. When you're playing up top in a game like this, in this formation, you've got to take advantage of at least one chance and get us back in it. Because if that game's 1-1 at halftime, we're in it, we're good. I think then they're sitting. They've got to respond then, which then of course they did come out the second half and score. But yeah, I don't hate it, but I'm curious to see how that would play out.
Yeah, I think, I think it was interesting how deep they sat. I was expecting Spokane to try to attack more and almost leave their back line exposed with how poorly we've been playing. That was only our third goal in our last 5 games. So I really thought that they would have taken it to us. And you're right. Once they got that early goal, there was no need for them to push up and really didn't feel like they had a lot of other great chances. We'll talk about the second goal, I'm sure, but against a team that's just smothering like that, you're not we're just not creative at this time. We're not creative enough to beat a team that's fully parked the bus.
Yeah, I thought when they did get forward and they weren't able to take advantage of all of their chances, if that makes sense. They had a few shots and they had a lot of what seemed like low balls coming across the box, and our back line stepped up. We had a couple shots blocked. They stepped up where we needed them to, if that makes sense. But that first goal, I think, is what kind of threw us for a loop and shook us. But I also think that might have been a good thing because we did kind of figure out that formation a little bit more and figured out, okay, we can't, every touch at that back line has to be perfect if they're going to press us like that. And for the rest of the game, it was better until I think we had a giveaway, and then that led to the penalty. So let's jump into that one because I don't think you think it's a penalty in talking to you.
So I'm not mad. Like, this is not me on, gonna be upset like I was about the no call against Knoxville. I have no problem with the official pointing to the spot there. I just have a little bit of an issue with, I think that it was just unfairly harsh. The guy takes a heavy touch. Delgado is there. The ball's kind of loose. The ball's going out of play. And, I think even if Delgado doesn't touch him, he's not recovering to that ball. So I understand kind of by the law as it's written, it's a penalty. So I guess I'm just upset with the law, the rules of the game here. I think that was fair, um, an unfair penalty call. I do think that if it was the other way around, I would have thought it was a great penalty call. So that's it's hard to be fully upset because it is one of those, you see it all the time. In the higher leagues where there's video review and you see it on film and that's a penalty. It's really ticky tack. It's soft, but it is a penalty. It might be harsh, but it's a part of the game. A famous soccer pundit once said, plays like that should be a free kick. From that spot, he wasn't gonna score, so they shouldn't basically be given a goal. And that's really what you're doing when you point to the spot in open play is you're awarding a goal because penalties are so rarely saved during the run of play.
Yeah, I think Delgado had done, to his credit, had come out and claimed and won those kind of 1v1s so often in this game. Like, I think he had 2 in the first half that he won and cleared away, and then even more in the second half. Because again, when we're playing with that wingback formation, we're going to kind of leave ourselves open, and Spokane, I think, did a good job of playing to that, defending us really well, hitting us on the break, knowing they could probably catch us out. And Delgado stepped up big all the other times. This time he just happened to be, for me, half a step late, didn't get the ball. I think if he gets any touch on the ball there, it's not a penalty. I don't think the referee would call it, and we don't have video review, as we've talked about a lot on this show, to go look at it. I think if he gets any touch on the ball there, no penalty. Yeah, the guy takes a heavy touch. You're right. I don't think he gets to the end of it, and we were kind of talking too how much onus is on the attacker to avoid the collision with the goalkeeper, and we were kind of going back and forth. But yeah, I think unfortunately penalty, and not how we wanted to start the second half.
Yeah, and
after showing some promise there at the end of the first half.
Yeah, and I think that's part 2 of my frustration is I don't want to say it was a dive because he definitely gets clipped, but I think he deliberately didn't make any move to get out of the way. I think he could have easily jumped over Delgado, and he chose to basically step on his leg. And I agree. I'm not throwing a fit here that it was a penalty, because on the other hand, if Delgado doesn't come out, that's an opportunity where they might score because he doesn't take the heavy touch because Delgado's not in his face. So Delgado didn't, once again, we put Delgado in a really tough situation, and, he reacts a split second too late, doesn't get any of the ball, and, puts us down into a hole that I think the game was over at that point.
Yeah, I thought if we could respond right away, we could get back in it, and we saw, I think, some changes with Backstein coming on. And then Tristan Rose came out for Josh Yoder, which was like for like, give Yoder some rest. He's played a lot of minutes these past few weeks. But I thought when Backstein came on, I thought, okay, if we could get a goal here and respond quickly, we might be back in this. Kind of similar to the Miami FC game a
Mm-hmm.
couple weeks ago, where it was like, okay, yeah, we're down 3-0. Oh, shoot, it's 3-1. We're right back in this. We could score again. And we had chances again. I think Spokane did a good job defending it. I don't think we had any like huge chances that were like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
that was a sitter. The keeper made a great save, anything like that. But we were creating chances, which was good. Just couldn't get any like real clinical finish or any big chances, if you will. And then finally scoring late on. I think that's going to be a boost of confidence. And when we start talking about Boise, we can kind of talk about that. But
Mm-hmm.
just sadly a little too late. If that had come at the 75th minute, I think we could probably push for a win. But again, Spokane, very good team, proved why they are currently second in the league. Much better performance than the one against Knoxville, I thought, a couple weeks ago. And
Mm-hmm.
you got to take what you can, take the little wins here. I don't think people want to hear us complain. But a 2-1 result, I think at the end of the day, isn't a bad result against that Spokane team on the
Yeah.
road too.
Yeah, I think we talked about it, probably not on the air because, it's a little Debbie Downerish, but I think if we walk away, with 3 points on against Boise, I think this road trip's absolutely a win. And I think we were just rooting for being even on goal differential, leaving this road trip, and that goal's huge because now we beat Boise. We drop a goal, but we pick up 3 points that I don't think we were anticipating. We were kind of hoping for two. I think we said that if we could just not go on this road trip and take 2 points, we would take it. Um, and I do think we won a lot of segments of that game, and I think post goal, you're right. I feel like the last 30 minutes they played really well, and they were knocking on the doorstep, and I think that ball, it felt like for once we got a good bounce. It hits the top of the crossbar and goes in. I feel like so often this season we've gotten bounces that don't go our way, and great chances turn into goal kicks. So I do think that goal is going to have great magnitude, and hopefully, you take those 30 minutes and build from there. And this is 2 out of 3 games where we started really poorly. In terms of result. Same thing happened against Miami is kind of very similar where we had a couple big chances but at the 10-minute mark they're up 1-0. So finding a way to start a little bit better. I feel like last year we were talking about closing halves out, and this year it seems to be more we need to start faster. So um although I do think we have the record for fastest goal in USL history. I think was that am I getting that stat correct? Didn't
I
we
think it
score
was
like didn't
you
we score
might.
like 1 minute in?
I think so. I think there's something out there that we did, and I don't remember the stat off the top of my head, but I believe you are correct in that.
I
For
did
one of the
just
quickest goals,
I did just throw you completely under the bus on verifying my stat that I'm bringing to the show here.
the stat
Um,
that yes,
yes, the stat that I provided, I did not fact check. So yeah, I
sure.
think
Let's go with it.
yeah, we'll go. It's a Paulism. Yeah, it. So I think that's where we go. We take those 30 minutes and we move on to Boise. I really appreciated the team posting that they would be flying to Boise. I was actually going back and forth because it's a very short flight. It's a long bus ride, but not too long. So I wasn't sure if they'd be flying or driving. So really appreciated the team putting out their flight path for this trip.
Yes, yes. Also, if you haven't seen the Luca Mastrantonio goal, go watch it and vote for it. It's up for USL Goal of the Week. It's more than deserving. It's a great strike, and hopefully that's something that can give this team and everyone some confidence of, okay, let's go do. If we can score a goal like that, we can do anything. Let's go do this on Wednesday. So that does bring us to Boise, which will be Wednesday night, 9 p.m. It's on the CBS Sports Network or Paramount Plus, so different app, different streaming service this time. technically on cable TV, I think, is CBS Sports Network, old school cable channel if you're old school and have cable like I do. But a 9 p.m. kickoff in Boise. Boise's last game was last Wednesday, so they will have had a week of rest. They lost to Charlotte 1-0. That game kind of came as an opposite of their recent form. They've been really good at home. That game was on the road, but another tough test, I think, as we're playing the current number 6 team in the league. They've played 7 games on 11 points, and it's going to be a rematch with our former center back, Jake Dangler, who's a starter for AC Boise.
Yeah, I think this is an interesting fixture. Boise goes on the road. They strike me as a team that's going to have good home field advantage, similar to Spokane and Portland. You have these long road trips to get to these locations, and it's the same reason why they're going to struggle on the road because now they have to fly across the country to play whoever they're playing. So I don't read too much into that Independence loss because the Independents have also been playing well as of late. So um, as teams start playing equal amounts of games, the standings will start to even out a little bit more. We sit 3 points ahead of the Independents and Boise. However, we have 2 games in hand on both teams. So and as poor form as we keep saying Naples appears to be in, we have to remember that 2 of those losses came against better leagues, with the loss to Orlando and Miami in the Cup. So, you know, 2 losses in our last 2 league games and a draw before we had a good little run before that. So I think that this is an opportunity. I am more optimistic seeing those last 30 minutes going down to Boise on Wednesday night.
Yeah, Boise has not lost. They played 3 games at home, have not lost yet. They're 2-1-0. They do have a +5 goal difference, so they've scored 7 at home, given up 2. So I think they are. It's going to be another tall task. Going to be another tough one. Most recently, they beat Chattanooga Red Wolves 2-1 at home. Kind of grounded that one out. And then they beat Westchester at home 4-0 a couple weeks ago. So definitely a tall task, I think, for this one. Like you said, though, I'm definitely more optimistic from the Naples perspective, looking at it because of how we kind of finished that one. We've shown, okay, maybe we can adapt to them. Maybe we know something about them too, that we can get in there, get an early goal, and then sit back and defend. Or maybe we're back and forth all game, finally find a breakthrough there around 60th minute and then can make changes or even score later. I don't know how this one's going to go. It seems like Boise can score goals. So that's the one thing that does kind of have me worried. But we said the same thing about Spokane and we held them to 2. So it's just going to be, can we keep pace with them, I think, up top, because they seem like they've got a real strong striking power. They've kind of been playing this 3-4-3, it looks like, with all 3 forwards getting forward and just a real strong midfield as well. And Dangler's holding things down back there. We know how good of a player he is from last season. So gonna be another tough one. But like you said, I think that Spokane game has, even though it was a loss, it's given me some confidence heading into this one.
Yeah, and again, it's a very long season. We're gonna have some valleys, and the old saying is you don't want your valleys too deep, and you don't want your peaks too high, especially in the early part of the season. Then you want to find that form, August September timeframe. So you know it it's not too late to get on a little winning streak here, and the best time to do that is the next game. And I think it'll tell a lot about the team because, right, I think we were very disappointed with the Knoxville result. We're disappointed, but not super disappointed with the Spokane result. And Boise's been a team that's kind of beaten up on bad teams. So, if we go out there and we give them a game, even if it ends 2-1 and we play really well, there's a lot of factors that are going to go into that. You come back for again, it's that we're in a really grueling part of the schedule, so we're going to have to find a game that we pick up some points because play Jacksonville's over the weekend, and then I think we got Omaha coming to our place, so it's not going to get easier until we clear that game. Um, and then we kind of find an opportunity to get right. So thinking if we can, I'm sorry, we play Westchester at home before we go to Omaha. So, think about what a swing we could be talking about in 10 days or so I guess that's kind of a long, I'm sorry, 2 weeks from now, we could be talking about a 6 point swing, which puts us right back up at the top of the table.
Yeah, six
If we
points would be huge, and it's such a long season too. So we're saying all this. We're not sounding any alarms yet. We're not freaking out, although it may seem like it, and we get frustrated in the moment. We got to remember it's a long season, and there's plenty of points still up for grabs. Especially when we don't have to travel all the way out west and play two really, really good teams in this league. It's this game too, looking at back to Boise, I think they've got two players that are former Rowdies players, our arch rivals, the Tampa Bay Rowdies, Nick Moon and Blake Bodley, both in the midfield. So look out for them, just as former Rowdies players. I saw that, thought it was an interesting tidbit because both of them have played us already, just from a championship side. So they've got a lot of ex-championship players, it looks like, on Boise. So I think they are going to be a force to be reckoned with this season as they kind of settle in, kind of like us, where might get a slow-ish start to this new season and then kind of settle in from there. But they seem to be very good. So I take a point now. 3 points I think would be huge, but I'd back us to get 3 points, and that could swing the momentum, like you said, heading into playing a championship side next Sunday and then hosting Westchester, who I think they have been very up and down this season, to say the least, and then heading out to Omaha, which is going to be another tough task because I think they're sitting in third right now. So lots of games coming in against good teams, and we knew it was going to be a test this stretch of the season, and it's proving to be that so far.
Yeah, and looking back at our results, I think we're kicking ourselves about Corpus, not getting 3 points there. But again, their only points have come us, Knoxville, Spokane, as we've talked about. You could say the Madison loss was a disappointing result. They're sitting in a playoff spot. So, we have played a tough schedule. We've beaten a team that's in the playoffs right now, beaten Richmond, who on the road, who's sitting in ninth. So, um, and then we did what we were supposed to do against Greenville. So far we're kind of right on pace with kind of where we would have wanted to be, and I think we both would have taken, you know, 15 points through 10 games preseason. So, point on Wednesday gets us to that point.
Absolutely. I think I would have loved to have 15 points through 10 games, especially with the shakeups that we had and the questions we kind of came in asking. And like you said, we've kind of beaten the teams that we are supposed to beat this season, beating Fort Wayne, beating Richmond, beating Greenville, beating Sarasota. These are games that I think I would have backed us to win preseason and said, yeah, like just looking at the table, looking at all the transfers and everything, said, yeah, these are games we should win. It's that Madison game at home that's going to be a kicker. I think Portland on the road, when they weren't playing all that well, that's going to be the kicker. But we did get a point there, so it's kind of a give and take. I think we need to survive this stretch, keep picking up as many points as we can, and then we move on to getting back where the games aren't coming at us, where we're not playing Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday, because that's a tough stretch of games. Thankfully, one of those games in the USL Cup, so it won't count towards our standings, but tough stretch of games, and let's get through it. Let's go get 3 points on Sunday, or on Wednesday, and then again on Sunday. Why not?
What are your thoughts on a lineup shakeup here going into this matchup? 2 days of rest plus some travel. A lot of guys putting in a lot of minutes. I think we're both going to agree that the Jacksonville game Sunday will be a full squad rotation game. So, with that thought, what are we thinking we're going to see on Wednesday night?
I think we might see Torres either get moved up into the midfield or maybe give him a night off, and then bring Rose on. I think that defensive, if we're going to play that three center back formation, I think we need three solid center backs. Just looking at
Hmm.
this Boise team and what they've been able to do so far this year, as far as goals and being able to score. I think we really need to reassure that with three true center backs. I like the wing back formation. I kind of want to see it against Boise. How that's going to work out, I don't know. But I don't know who else. Hudson Gay, I think you could give him a run out on the right instead of Taylor Gray because he's not really a defender per se. He's not. He's not a defender. He's a great at getting forward. So I think maybe we see some sort of rotation there and give him a run out. But then I still would want to see Gray up in the midfield playing in that next line. It's a tough question. I'm glad I'm not the manager having to make these decisions because it's going to be tough trying to factor in Boise, who seems to be very good offensively, to compare to us. So I don't know. I would love to go back and watch that Charlotte game, and see what Charlotte did to kind of shut them down last week because it seemed to work. They held them to no goals. I believe that was the first time all year Boise hasn't scored a goal in a game, that they were shut out. So would love to see what Charlotte did because they didn't have much possession and they somehow had 18 shots in that game. So maybe there's something to be said, playing a true five back. I don't know.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna match you with the wingbacks, and for the first time, I think in this show's history, I'm gonna give my what I would like to see as our starting 11. Delgado's gonna hold down the fort. Uh, we're gonna go with the five back with Cisneros and Gay as our wing backs, Master Antonio Yoder, Rose kind of in that middle, and then I want to see Magletti up top with Farine and Gray on his right and left, and then O'Connor and Garcia holding down that midfield. I think that gives us threats to counter a little bit more than what we're seeing, while also kind of reinforcing. I think bringing Gay to the back line reinforces the defense, and maybe he's a little bit less aggressive as a wing back, but can definitely push to pace up the wing. Um, that's so I'm pitching a 5-2-3, and for Wednesday night.
I like it. So with that 5-2-3, what's your scoreline prediction going to be?
I think that this is going to be a fun one. I think we're going to have some tired legs out there. Um, and we've given up goals in our last five matches. So I'm going to go 2-2, and we walk out of Boise pleased with our 1 point.
I was gonna go the opposite. I was gonna go 0-0. I don't. I think our boy Jake Dangler back there is gonna hold down the fort, but I think whatever changes we make defensively will hold down our fort as well, and we're gonna frustrate the heck out of them. Do whatever Charlotte did, kind of thing. So I'm gonna go 0-0. Boring 0-0. I'm gonna stay up and watch it, and then be upset with myself for staying up to watch it, and because there's no
You're
goals in it.
you're getting the reverse for me, with the Forest games, and I am up at 4 in the morning, and then I regret waking up at 4 in the morning to watch whatever poor result they put up. Maybe Dangler will put one in the back of the net, and hopefully it's his own net. Maybe we see a Jake
Yeah,
Dangler own goal. Write that down as a prediction. Jake Dangler own goal Wednesday night.
operation or activate,
Yep.
secret agent Jake Dangler for us. Still an FC Naples player at heart. I love it. Anything else, Paul, to add before we get out of here?
Nope. I think I'm excited for Wednesday night. the people will be excited to hear. We might have some more airport talk coming up. I will be watching this one from the San Francisco airport. Get to the airport a little early so I can enjoy the game in the airport lounge before flying to the Northeast for the weekend. So looking forward to Wednesday night and can't wait to hopefully have some more positive vibes on the show later in the week.
Yeah, with you there. Looking forward to Wednesday night. Remember, this game is on CBS Sports Network and Paramount Plus, so don't go to your ESPN app to try and find it if you're looking for it late on Wednesday. Looking forward to this one. Thank you so much for listening to the show. As always, be sure to get in touch with us on social media at Forza Naples Pod on Instagram and Twitter. You can email us forzanaples239@gmail.com. Be sure to share this podcast with all your FC Naples loving friends. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, come on Naples.